Before this video begins, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Also, be sure to check out my affiliates down below to get discounts on different car mods and products. Alrighty, let's get into the drive. Hello and welcome. Today we are driving a 2017 Jaguar F-Pace 35T Prestige. This is an all-wheel drive model. I would like to thank Flood Ford Lincoln in Narragansett, Rhode Island for allowing me to both review and test drive this vehicle. I just completed a full in-depth review with this Jaguar, currently out on the channel, so make sure to go check that out. And now I'll just give you a quick spec run-through. So this 2017 Jaguar F-Pace is Jaguar's first SUV. This is the first model year it was made, and it's currently still being made in 2023. This is finished in red with a brown leather interior, has 69,000 miles, and currently stickers for about $24,500. This is a two-row SUV, which is a small SUV, competing with the Audi Q5, BMW X3, and similar. When new, this costs about $50,000. This has a 3-liter supercharged V6, making 340 horsepower and 332 pound-feet of torque. That's mated with a ZF 8-speed automatic, with a 0 to 60 time per Jaguar of about 5.4 seconds. This gets 18 mpg city, 23 highway, and 20 mpg combined out of a 16.6 gallon fuel tank. It rides on 19-inch alloy wheels with 255 wide tires all around and ventilated disc brakes all around. It came with a diesel option, but that is uncommon in the US. This is 186.3 inches long, 81.5 inches wide without the mirrors, 65 inches tall, and has 8.4 inches of ground clearance. It has a 3.73 axle ratio with a brake-actuated LSD or limited slip differential, and it does have a dual stainless steel exhaust with chrome tips out the back. And that's going to just about do it for the spec run-through. If you want to learn more about this Jaguar, go check out my full in-depth POV review with it. But now we are going to get this out on the road. So, one cool thing just upon startup, if you start this up, this turn dial shifter, it actually pops up, slowly rises out, so that's pretty cool for you to access it. And this does have a sport mode as well as a couple drive modes that we will test out. It does also have some paddles back there for the automatic transmission. So shifting into drive like so, we are off. So we are currently just in the normal drive mode. Nothing too exciting, but one early thing about this is the steering wheel is a beautiful wheel. It has a very nice soft supple leather on it. It feels very, very nice in the hand. And then you do get a head-up display in front of you. It's very bright out. I don't know if you can quite see that right now, and it's also not active, but in certain drive modes you can activate and deactivate that. And yeah, it does have a head-up display optional right there. So I've never driven a Jaguar. This is my first Jaguar, and not my first supercharged vehicle, but it's my first supercharged SUV. So that's pretty cool. It does have a fully digital gauge cluster, as you can see. And if you stomp it just a bit, it does sound pretty nice. So it is a 3-liter engine, so nothing massive, but it is supercharged. And it does have a dual stainless steel exhaust out back with chrome tips. One thing I noticed is, wow, these brakes are excessively grabby. Not in a terrible way, but they are pretty hard to manage, actually. Just driving smoothly this vehicle, because even in stop-and-go traffic, it's like completely on or completely off, but a really deep travel distance of the pedal, so it's kind of a pain. Ooh. Like that engine sound. I don't think much of that is pumped in either. Maybe none of it's pumped in, but it sounds very nice. Alright, it does sound very good. I can feel a lot of that through the floor of the exhaust, so I don't think too much if any of that is pumped in, which is nice. It's a little bit of a sensitive steering wheel. It's not terrible like with input. It's good good timing, but it is a bit of a sportier one. So if you do just a little bit to the wheel, it does pull you a good bit of a ways. It doesn't really do, you know, have any like dead center zone in the steering like most stuff, which is pretty good for a sportier SUV. But I wish it would calm down just a little bit more maybe than it is currently, because most people are never going to get too much speed out of this F-Pace, although it's capable of some. but I wish it were just a little bit less touchy on the steering. And the brakes are very, very touchy. Like if I go like this, you launch hard forward because these are very grabby brakes. I understand they're supposed to be for, you know, you're dealing with some good power here, but lightly tapping the brakes is actually kind of difficult in here. You can't get all that light input on the brakes that successfully. And we will perform a 0 to 60 mile per hour run in just a moment. Going through some bumps right there. The suspension actually handled it pretty well, so that's good. The transmission's gonna handle everything well. It's a ZF 8-speed, you know, they're one of the main standards, they're great. And there's somebody behind us right now, but I will comment on my normal driving, then we'll do your 0 to 60. So going through these bumps, this has 19-inch wheels with 255 wide tires on them. Fully ventilated disc brakes all around, which is nice for performance on that basis. And they sound pretty quiet, actually. They're really not that bad. They are louder than the wind noise, I'll say. But wind noise is extremely low to begin with, so even with 19-inch wheels, it's pretty decent, going about 40-45 miles per hour. And going through some corners, it's a pretty tight suspension, but it's forgiving enough. One thing I don't really like is the seats in here. This is just more of a personal thing, but the lower back support, I have the lumbar support. It's 4-way lumbar support, as it should be in an entry-level luxury SUV, but it is just kind of hard. I don't like the lower back portion of these chairs. They're not that forgiving on your back. They feel like they're very firm, and I can't get them to loosen up. But the rest of these seats are pretty good. They're heated, of course. They may be cooled, I'm not quite sure, but they're pretty good on their own. Very nice leather color, as you saw in the interior. They are very, very nice. And let's just test the turning radius of this Jaguar. So try and do a little 3-point turn. Very nice camera quality as well. Extremely high quality resolution for the camera, which is nice. And yeah, you can do a 3-point turn pretty successfully in a normal 2-lane road, so that's pretty good. It is a smaller SUV. The back seats don't have all that much room, but they're decent enough. Again, this competes with like the BMW X3, Audi Q3, similar stuff to that, and the Land Rover Range Rover Evoque. And if you get into the pedal, I'm still in normal mode. Sounds great, as you can hear. And the ZF is pretty good. It's a little bit slow to pick up way into gear like that. If you floor it, it's a little hesitant, but that's more due to the drive mode right now. This transmission, of course, it's a ZF 8-speed. I've never had anything but bad things. I've never had any bad things to say about a ZF 8-speed to date, and they, yeah, handles very well here as well. The brakes take a little bit of getting used to. You can handle them, but they're just not the most fun to deal with because they are just so grabby. But we will come to a stop here. Now there is nobody behind us. Shift into sport. Make sure everything is in sport. So dynamic also in there. And we will do a 0 to 60 run. Keep in mind, this is an all-wheel drive SUV. All right, that's 60. Let's get back into normal drive mode. So per Jaguar, they claim about 5.4 seconds, 0 to 60. I'm not quite sure if that was I'm not sure if that was quite 5.4, but overall it felt pretty good. It pulls decently hard throughout the range. It has, I think, 332 pound-feet of torque, 340 horsepower, but it does pretty well. You know, it's a heavier SUV. I think it weighs in about 5,000 pound gross weight, 4,000 pound curb weight. So it's a little bit heavy on that side, but it gets out of its own way. It does pretty well in that pull. Nothing too impressive. It's more of an entry level. It costs about $50,000 when new, but overall I very much do like it. It does pull pretty hard, much sportier than, you know, obviously an economy SUV. And then we'll get out on some faster roads here, just discuss some of the wind noise if there's too much of it. Same with tire noise, just at some higher speeds. Yeah, pretty good getting up to speed. Wind noise picks up just a little bit over 50, but it's still very minimal. Tire noise is usually what's more present than wind noise. Wind noise is very quiet in here across the board. Tire noise is, you know, minimal. It's present, but not anything that bad for having such large wheels. And 255 tires is decently wide, and it does very well. As for visibility in here, it does have a bit of a thicker A-pillar than I would prefer. It just sticks out more. It's not that thick on a size basis, but it just sticks out a good bit, I think. But it's pretty easy to see around because it's such a thin pillar as a whole. You do get that double panoramic sunroof up here. You do get that 2-panel panoramic sunroof in this particular model, and I think that adds a lot of nice natural light. I wouldn't want to get one without it. I'm not sure if they even offer one without it, but it is very nice, nicely done. And then otherwise, it does have pretty good visibility out the blind spots. It does seem to have blind spot monitoring, which is good. So to date, that's been functioning fine. And then otherwise, it's a small enough SUV to maneuver, but it still holds a decent amount of room. It also has 33 cubic feet of storage with all the seats up, which is pretty good. Then for the rest of your interior here, it's pretty interesting actually. They have a typical of Jaguar infotainment system here. So it's like a long stretched out rectangle versus you know, more of like a wider, almost closer to a square in a lot of other vehicles. But they've always done it like this, and I think it keeps it looking sleek and different. A lot of this on both the exterior and the interior, I think they do a good job with keeping it minimal and having it be still elegant and definitely sporty, because they could keep this, you know, really swoopy round lines everywhere and never add any sportiness to it. But I think they do a great match of the two. This is definitely sporty from the exterior, but it keeps you know, being very plush on the interior, which is nice. Let's try out those paddles. So the paddles, it looks like you have to be in sport mode to use. Yes, you do. 4, 3. Very good response from those paddles, both on upshifts and downshifts. That's very good. And then visibility out the rear, it's a bit of a challenge. It's nothing too bad, but they don't really have too much of a rear window present beyond the headrest. All you really see is the headrest. You can't, when you look back here, to see too great. You can see a bit of a window there, but it's so far forwards, it doesn't really help you too much more than the backside window. But otherwise, for visibility, it is pretty decent in here. It's maybe a little bit lower of a windshield just up top, but it's perfectly fine. Like this mirror assembly, it does seem to go forward just a little bit, be a little bit of a shallow view up here, but otherwise I think it's okay. And then for that engine noise, I think it sounds very nice up high. It sounds pretty quiet when you're parked, but otherwise it does sound very good when you get up there. And the supercharger, you know, there's not turbo lag. It hits with most of its power right away, which is, of course, how it should be. Turbocharger would add lag, but Jaguar does a lot more supercharging. Same with Land Rover. They've always been more into superchargers. I don't know if they make any turbocharged models at the moment, but I was worried it would drone because when I was, you know, idling this, I didn't even hear any barely engine noise. I was wondering if it would feel like a very loud droning type of engine, but it gets way out of, you know, it gets into a good gear, so it doesn't do any of that. Because of the ZF, it's very good at predicting all that. ZF transmission, shifts great. You can feel the shifts. It's not effortless, but it is very smooth in doing so. And even in normal mode, if I stomp it, it's pretty easy to control. I can kind of pick multiple levels, of course, of which gear I'm trying to really jump into, if I'm going full power or nothing. I have a lot of in between, which is, of course, how it should be. And driving this pretty, you know, leisurely, like I am now, it's very easy to do so. The ride is a little bit stiff. The steering is a little bit too responsive, I think. I understand why they did it, to have some more performance aspects to this. It is a quicker SUV, but I wish maybe it would just tune down just a little bit in the steering. I wish it would be a little bit less input response just in normal modes and such. I wish you could change that a little bit. For your gauge cluster, it's very minimal. I like this minimalism that Jaguar uses through a good bit of their models. It stands apart, doesn't, you know, shout at you about any aspect of it, of I'm a Jaguar, you know, notice me. It's very easy to live with in that regard. Very peaceful, you know, feel and vibe to the interior. And of course, it does use a very good choice of materials. It has a good variety. It has some wood, has chrome, has a couple shades of brown, and of course it has inside here just some gloss black in the center. And otherwise, I think it's pretty decent for the price point right now. Jaguar, Land Rover are definitely known for having very fast and drastic depreciation, but then they can be decent cars. This was currently about 69,000 miles. It's down to 24.5. It costs about 50 or a little more when new. So yeah, it's definitely lost a good bit quickly compared to some other brands, but that is to be expected. But otherwise, I think it's actually, it's a pretty good package overall. It's elegant enough, sporty enough, has some real power behind it, but it really is pretty nice inside. And not all that many people say they have a Jaguar, so they sell decent in the US, nothing that great, but they offer a number of models in the US, and overall it is, a bit uncommon, good bit uncommon to see some Jaguars out on the road. But for their first SUV, I think they did a very good job with this. It's a great balance of power. Some of the, sportiness, I think they made a little too apparent, maybe somewhat in the ride. I wish maybe they gave it an adaptive suspension within different drive modes, and that also applies to the steering feel, but it feels nice. It's not like anything like certain like BMW wheels that are like jerking you all over the road if you do any input. It's nothing ridiculous. And then otherwise for visibility, it's pretty decent. Gives you a lot of style points, and it retains some decent visibility for the most part of all angles. So that's about all you can ask for typically of an entry-level luxury SUV. So for Jaguar's first complete attempt at a SUV, I think they did a very good job with this. And although the reliability in the long term can be questionable, that's due to the, of course, why the depreciation is such a hard hit. While they're on the newer side, I think they are pretty good SUVs. I would again like to thank Flood Ford Lincoln in Narragansett, Rhode Island for allowing me to both review and test drive this Jaguar F-Pace. Be sure to check out my full in-depth review currently out on the channel. And that'll just about wrap up the video. As always, drive with passion. Thank you very much for watching, and take care.